Their safe haven in London, the private world of Jamie and Amelia. London had always been a city of motion. Its streets breathed with footsteps layered over centuries, its buildings held stories in brick and glass, and its sky seemed forever in conversation with the Thames. For Jamie and Amelia, however, London was not merely a backdrop of ambition or public visibility. It was home. More precisely, it was refuge. Tucked away from the gaze of cameras and expectations, their house stood as a quiet declaration of who they were when no one else was watching. The house itself rested on a tree-lined street in a neighborhood that prized discretion over display. From the outside, it revealed little. A modest brick facade, tall windows softened by pale curtains, and a small iron gate that creaked faintly when opened. Neighbors passed by with polite nods, accustomed to the idea that privacy was a shared responsibility. Within these walls, Jamie and Amelia had created something rare in a city so vast, a sanctuary shaped by patience, shared memory, and love that did not demand an audience. Crossing the threshold was like stepping into a different rhythm. The noise of the city dulled, replaced by the gentle hum of domestic life. The entryway carried the faint scent of lavender, a detail Amelia insisted on after discovering how calming it felt at the end of long days. Shoes were neatly arranged, some practical and worn, others polished for formal occasions that seemed increasingly distant from their priorities. On a small wooden table sat a bowl of keys and a framed photograph of the family on a windy afternoon by the coast. Hair tangled, smiles unguarded. The living room unfolded with warmth rather than grandeur. A large sofa, softened by years of use, anchored the space. Its cushions bore subtle indentations, evidence of evenings spent reading, talking, or simply sitting together in comfortable silence. Shelves lined the walls, filled not with trophies or public accolades, but with books whose spines told a quieter story. Novels with dog-eared pages, travel journals, children's picture books, and volumes on history and architecture that Jamie had collected since his youth. Between them were personal artifacts, each one chosen not for display, but for meaning. There was a ceramic bowl made by Amelia during a pottery class she once took on a whim. Its shape was imperfect, its glaze uneven, yet Jamie insisted it remain on the shelf because it represented her willingness to try, to fail, and to laugh at herself. Nearby stood a small wooden train, its paint chipped, a relic from their child's earliest years. Jamie often found himself pausing in front of it, marveling at how time could pass so quietly and yet change everything. Light played a crucial role in the house. In the mornings, sunlight filtered through the windows, casting soft patterns on the wooden floors. Amelia cherished these hours most. Before the city fully awakened, before emails and obligations intruded, she would move through the kitchen barefoot, preparing breakfast with unhurried care. The kitchen was the true heart of the home, a space where conversations flowed as naturally as tea from the kettle. The table bore faint scratches from years of family meals and late-night discussions. Jamie loved that nothing in the house felt untouchable. Everything was meant to be lived with. While Amelia cooked, Jamie often leaned against the counter, offering commentary that ranged from thoughtful to teasing. Their exchanges were effortless, shaped by years of shared experience and mutual understanding. Words were not always necessary. A glance, a raised eyebrow, or a half-smile often conveyed more than conversation ever could. Upstairs, the bedrooms told stories of rest and retreat. Jamie and Amelia's room was understated, painted in calming neutral tones. The bed, wide and inviting, faced a window that overlooked the quiet street below. On the bedside tables lay books at varying stages of completion, a pair of reading glasses, and a small lamp whose warm glow softened the room at night. Above the headboard hung a photograph taken early in their relationship, long before life had grown complicated. In it, they were younger, standing close together, eyes bright with possibility. Amelia had hesitated before hanging it, worried it might feel indulgent, but Jamie had insisted. "It reminds us where we started," he said, "and why we keep going." Their child's room, by contrast, carried a gentle chaos. Drawings covered the walls, taped up with little concern for symmetry. A bookshelf overflowed with stories read and reread until their spines bent in surrender. Toys rested in various states of abandonment, evidence of imagination moving faster than tidiness. Amelia often stood in the doorway at night, watching her child sleep, struck by the quiet miracle of it all. In those moments, the pressures of the outside world faded completely. There was also a smaller room at the back of the house that Jamie referred to as his thinking space. It was not an office in the traditional sense. There was no grand desk or imposing chair, only a simple table by the window, a comfortable armchair, and shelves lined with notebooks. Here, Jamie reflected, planned, and occasionally struggled with doubts he rarely voiced elsewhere. Amelia respected this space deeply, understanding that solitude was sometimes as necessary as togetherness. In return, Jamie honored the time Amelia spent in the garden, tending to plants with a care that mirrored how she nurtured her relationships. The garden itself was modest but lovingly maintained. A small lawn, bordered by flowering plants and herbs, offered a rare pocket of green amid the urban landscape. In spring and summer, the family spent countless hours there. Meals were eaten outdoors when weather allowed, laughter drifting softly into the evening air. Jamie often grilled while Amelia arranged plates, and their child darted between them, full of questions and boundless energy. These were the moments they treasured most, unrecorded and unannounced. Evenings in the house followed a gentle ritual. After dinner, dishes were washed together, one drying while the other washed, a choreography perfected over time. Later, they gathered in the living room. Sometimes they watched films, sometimes they read, and sometimes they simply talked. Conversations ranged from the practical to the philosophical, from plans for the future to reflections on the past. There were disagreements, of course, moments of tension born from fatigue or misunderstanding. But they had learned how to navigate these moments with respect and patience. What sustained their relationship was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of trust. Over the years, Jamie and Amelia had developed an unspoken understanding that allowed them to weather change. When one felt overwhelmed, the other instinctively stepped forward. When words failed, silence filled the gap without resentment. Their love was not loud, but it was resilient, built on daily acts of care rather than grand declarations. Returning home after public engagements always carried a sense of relief. The world outside demanded versions of themselves shaped by expectation. Inside their home, those versions fell away. Jamie could shed the weight of performance, and Amelia could set aside the constant awareness of being observed. Here, they were simply partners and parents, learning as they went, making mistakes, and forgiving one another with grace. The house bore witness to their journey. It had seen late-night worries whispered in the dark, celebrations marked by quiet toasts, and tears shed in moments of uncertainty. It had held them during times when the future felt unclear and reminded them of their strength when they forgot it themselves. Each room, each object, carried the imprint of their shared life. As years passed, the sanctuary evolved alongside them. New photographs replaced old ones, furniture shifted to accommodate growth, and routines adapted to changing needs. Yet the essence of the home remained unchanged. It was a place defined not by perfection, but by presence. By the willingness to show up for one another, day after day. In revealing the private world of Jamie and Amelia's family, one truth became unmistakably clear. Their home was more than a physical space. It was a reflection of enduring love shaped by mutual respect and quiet devotion. Their journey home, repeated countless times, was a reaffirmation of who they chose to be together. In a city that never stopped moving, they had found stillness. In a life filled with noise, they had created harmony. And within the walls of their London sanctuary, their story continued, not as a spectacle, but as a lived and deeply cherished reality.